Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. I'm Greg Christ, along with my the better half of this duo, Frank Fear. Frank, welcome in, and here we are on another Wednesday night, slowly moving through summertime, and we still feel like we have plenty to talk about.
You know, thank God. Otherwise, we'd just be looking at each other, and I don't know what we would be doing. I mean, but yeah, it's just amazing. It used to be, hey, the seasons, one came after the other. There was a lull, and now it's just all strings together. We're going to talk about some of the things that you didn't expect that popped up. I think just today in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
always good being with you, Greg.
Yep, and we're blessed again to have Mark Parsons with us. I think we originally had announced that we'd have Tim Carney with us, but we had our dates mixed up, and we knew Mark. We had to cut him off after the offense was done last week, and we thought, man, we need to have him back talk a little bit about the defense because that was so informing. And I think we're lucky to have Mark in the wings, and he'll be joining us here momentarily. We've got two or three different announcements we got to want to make sure we make tonight. So we'll tell everybody about those things here in just a little bit. But what you mentioned there just a second ago about the NCAA opening up another portal, I hadn't seen that. Um, and you explained that they decided to open up a portal for a month because there were so many players that were in and weren't going anywhere, had nowhere to go because it was so late in the process when they got in the portal that they didn't land anywhere. So they're going to reopen it for a month to allow that to happen. And like you said, they're making it up making it up as they go, and that's part of the problem with this whole thing, this whole process. I think is all of them making it up as they go. And one of the things I was going to say, we were just discussing it back, but I had to get on the air. You know, I think whenever all this was looked at, and we talk about the settlement, the revenue sharing, all those things. Not too many people can pinpoint, the ramifications of what is going to happen if this happens. So, it's just like with this portal thing. The portal time was set. Players know when it is. They jump in. Um, but nobody, I don't think, probably really considered, well, what if you have hundreds of players in there that don't get picked up anywhere and don't have anywhere to go? What's going to happen to them? And I don't think any of us, if you have any, a lot of people say, well, it's their fault for getting in there, but that's not. Uh, I don't think that's the right approach to that. I think that we all want to see them get somewhere where they can play and contribute and get help with schooling and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't think people look at the possibilities of what might happen if this happens, and they never seems like they never plan. That's what I've always said about the NCAA. They're reactive. They're not proactive. They're reactive, and they wait till there's something pops up, and then they try to fix it, and usually they screw it up. And I don't know, how this will work. I don't know if they've thought about this yet or not, but sounds like again, fly by the seat of the pants. Let's see what happens.
Well, you're right, Greg, and it just makes it much more difficult to really, know who's going to be where. On the
Yeah,
one hand, this is a good thing because we could see it. I mean, West Virginia was an example. So many players were being brought in, and as you looked at the numbers, it was beyond the limits, and so players are going to be cut, and a significant number of players. I mean, Keenan Cummings had a great article this week where he looked at the inflow and outflow, particularly the outflow of players over the last
yeah,
I think, 3 seasons in the
yeah.
portal, and obviously it jumped up big time this year. But all those players aren't going to stick, and so many of them have already left. But for those who who are going to be cut, where are they going to land? Now, the other
Right.
thing is that when there's an action, there's a reaction. That means that coaches are going to be looking to see if someone who is cut by another team might fill a
Yeah.
hole on their team, which you got a 30-day window starting the 7th of July. it's so all of a sudden coaches didn't think they were going to be in another portal situation.
Yeah.
Hello, now they are. So it just makes it very, very difficult.
Yeah, and too, you think about you think about West Virginia's situation and Coach Rodriguez. We talked about that numerous times, and the number of players that they had brought in, and we're going to go through spring, and basically he was going to make cuts, and he's going to see what he had and cut from there. Well, those guys are going through spring practice, and then uh, you know some of them, you know, may not know until the very last minute that hey, you're not going to stick here. And then what do? I mean, it's not like they can just say, well, I'll just pack up and go to, I'll go to North Carolina and play. Um, they may not have that option, and they may have to have some time to, find a landing spot and get their name out there, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm sure there's, the coaches will be on top of it. They'll know immediately, but the players themselves, yeah, I don't, a lot of them that go in there don't really, I think, probably have a plan for what's going to happen. And again, that's another area where, I think it might do a service for these players. Uh, for I don't know if you have agents or how do you do it, but have some way of helping them figure it out and get where they need to be. Now, I've heard through the grapevine that Coach Rodriguez and his staff are very good about that. They really put forth an effort to try to help these guys, get somewhere. Your CJ Donaldsons, people like that leave. Of course, they're coerced into leaving, I'm sure, and uh, get those offers somehow relayed to them. But these other guys that get cut at the end there, they don't know. And what do? I mean, if that was your kid, and he was playing football up there, and then all of a sudden, he may have played last year. Then all of a sudden, you find out, well, he's not going to be on the team this year. And then what
Mm-hmm.
are you going to do? And uh, there's got to be some way I think set up for these guys, um, to be able to, at least have some options because you don't want them there with no options. And even opening the portal back up, I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure that that's going to give some of them options. I mean, they still may not
Mm-hmm.
end up anywhere. And there's a lot of. I mean, here it's July, and things really kick off in August, so there's not a lot of time left for these guys
Mm-hmm.
to find a place and get there and play. So yeah, I don't know. The mess the mess just keeps getting messier the way I see it.
Yeah, Greg, and I should have mentioned this earlier that my reading of it, and again, I just saw this today, is that it applies to all sports. Uh, Baseball, for example, if you've been following the WVU baseball team, uh, one of the nice things, again, an action reaction. West Virginia has a great season, goes on that long winning streak, makes it to the basically to the super regionals. We know that, and a lot of players are coming in, even though players have left. But the NCAA has also reduced the number of baseball scholarships for next year. So that means that, and here we are, baseball season doesn't start for obviously a number of months, but baseball players can also do that. So that
Yeah.
probably means that in a variety of sports, there are conversations between coaches and players about what are the odds, coach, or coach will say to a player, the odds are 30%, 50% that you're gonna make the team, and so it's yeah, it's as they say, a brave new world.
Yeah, and there's like I said, there's a lot of responsibilities there. I think for everybody, not only just the player but the coaches, to try to help these people, get other places. I know. I use my son as an example. I know one of the things he tells me because I've asked him about their recruiting. It's an NAIA school, and they get a lot of, they get a lot of really good players, and some of them come there who are kind of like in limbo about Division 1 or there. And he told me, he said, "Well, we tell them up front, if you come here and play, and you're good enough to, and we think you're good enough to be a D1 player, we'll do everything we can help you to get to that
Yeah.
level, and get you transferred." even though they'd be losing a good player. But they do that the other way as well. If they, if somebody wants to leave, they try to help them figure it out. What help them find someplace to go. He said you don't want people here that don't want to be here or have a reason to go somewhere else, so they try to help them. So a lot of responsibilities there, not only for the players but the coaches, and then I think whoever I'm not going to say agents again, but whoever else is involved in these decisions, um, I'll have a responsibility to try to help them get somewhere where they can prosper. So
That's right.
we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Who knows? What, like I said,
That's
the mess
right.
just keeps getting messer. Yeah, no, it's above our
Amen.
pay grade to keep up with it. I know that. I can't keep up with any of it. I just can't
Yeah.
wait till the
Well,
season starts. I can keep
it's
up with the
way
game.
it's way above our pay grade because we don't get paid.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And yeah, I'm just ready for the game to start. I can watch a game and figure stuff out, but I can't figure any of this other stuff. I can't
Yeah.
figure this transfer portal out and how
Yeah.
all this works. But yeah, hopefully it won't be much longer until we can kick off and get going. So, but anyway, you hope that these guys and you look at West Virginia's situation. I mean, how many players did he have to get rid of? I mean, he had a slew over 100 up there, and had to cut it down and well over 100, and had to cut it down. And so there's a lot of those kids, I'm sure, that are in that portal are still out
Yeah.
there, not any landed anywhere yet. So
Yeah.
hopefully that gets rectified. But we'll see. We'll
Well, the
see.
good news is not affecting basketball, either men's or women's. WVU just signed another four-star, and he
Yep.
restructured it, so he's coming in this this year rather than next out of Massachusetts, and he was
Yeah.
recruited by some ACC schools and also some SEC schools, and so and Big Ten. Maryland was after him, Boston College, Mississippi State, a guy by the name of Amir Jenkins, and he is he's highly rated, and so both the men and the women are pretty much at capacity. They're not doing what baseball and football seems to be doing, bringing in more players than they need. Um, I'm not sure why, but the fact of the matter is, Greg, I don't think I've ever seen an article about, we've got 20 kids on the bench or 16 kids on the bench, and we're going to have to cut. That may be, I just haven't seen it. But things are looking good both for men and women. Very impressed with what Coach Hodge has done in a very short period of time. And I think if I read that correctly, we've got four stars on this team. And when you think the fact that we started with no players,
And
literally
nobody.
close
Yeah.
to or literally no players in a
Yeah.
short period of time, unexpectedly. So that's a good thing. So
Yeah. And I think too, you look at the roster that he has assembled. I've seen some video of some of the players, some good players, obviously. But one thing I noticed about it was the size of these guys, and that's one thing that we've lacked over the past few years is, productive big men. And I know the game has changed, and the big man, what you think of is a little different now than what it was 10 years ago. But that 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" guy that can shoot a little bit and move a little bit. Looks like he's landed a few of those, and that's something that we've desperately needed over the past few years. And I think again, looking at his coaching style and what he likes to do, um, he's a defensive minded guy, uh, but it looks like he's bringing in size. And I think I heard him mention once that one of the things that he felt right off the bat was that in order to compete in the Big 12, they had to get bigger than what they were last year because they just couldn't hold up. And I think that's been his approach. And like I said, some good sized players. I mean, there's some big kids in there that, and I don't just mean 7 footers. I'm talking guards that are 6'4", 6'5",
mhm.
that type of thing. So yeah, I like the way that roster's looking. From
Yep.
what you can see, and again, it's a lot like I think with football. I think it's gotten to the point where it's more about getting these people to gel and play together and get to know each other, more so than it is talent. There's plenty of talent to go around. I just think it's a blend of that talent and how that goes. So hopefully he can get these guys together and blend them to where they can play. And I think if you watch these teams, even West Virginia's team last year, even though we had those injuries, it really I think disrupted everything. It seemed as the year went on, they seemed to blend a little bit better together as the year progressed. They had hit a lull there, but then got it back together, and they played better together. And that roster was kind of thrown together as well. So you hope that hope the same thing's coming. I'm anxious to see that as well. I'm anxious to see the style of play and what he has to offer. I think that's going to be fun. But yeah, I like the looks of that roster. I think it's going to be okay. And I'm no expert in that field.
You're right. And the game, as has changed so much over the years. I remember back in the day, here's Magic Johnson, 6'8" guy, bringing the ball up as the point guard. And I was talking with a junior college coach the other day, and he was talking about on his team, he talked about having a point forward player that could, and when he was changing lineups, a player that would essentially be a two guard, not a true point guard, but a two guard, could shoot it from the outside. But then if he changed his lineup, that player could go into the four position, and with versatility, so that the other team, the same player, is going to give you a different look on offense. And these guys are also play good defense. So what you want is a point forward. If you have a point forward who not only can make that switch on offense, but he's going to be able to guard those players when he makes that switch, stay on the little guys, the smaller guys, but also the bigger guys when they go to a four position. So it's just, and I think for us as fans, it's so much easier, I think, if you're a student of the game, to see what's going on in basketball. Football is so much more complex. You got offense and defense, where in basketball you flow back and forth. And so these players are just, as the quality of these players and the ability that they bring, the capacity they bring, it's unbelievable. Watching the NBA. Jeez.
Yeah, you talked about when Magic Johnson came in, it was so bizarre to see that 6'8" guy that was running the point and running it very well. It was so bizarre, not too unusual today. But in today's game, it's more about the matchups that they face. I know even watching on my son's level in NAIA, they have kids that are 6'6", 6'7", that can step out to the 3-point line, 6'8", shoot the ball. So there's matchup problems a lot of times because the other team will have a big man that's 7 foot in the middle, but he can't move very well, and he has to go out and guard this guy. This guy's out there 6'7", 6'8", and he's handling the ball like a guard and goes right around him. So it's same way in the NBA. Look at LeBron James. He's 6'9" or whatever he is, 6'10". Jason Tatum, 6'9", 6'10", and those guys handle the ball, and it's matchup problems. If they get somebody that can't. That are big enough to stop them. They're not quick enough to keep them going around. If they're quick enough, they're typically not big enough. So it's all about matchups and that sort of thing nowadays, because all of them are so gifted and so talented. Ball handling, shooting, all of it, and it's so big and fast. The game's changed, and like I said, you can watch it and see those things and understand them. Whereas in football, I know there's, which we are going to talk a little bit about tonight, or at least I am. There's positions that you see mismatches and that sort of thing, but football's harder to pick up on because so many different people, and there's so many of them out there at one time, and there's so many different positions. But it's a little bit different. But whole different world. Different world was when I played.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I think this is. I think that was a lead-in, Darren, for showing a visual when Greg said it's different from when I played. I think if you could put that graphic up. There it is. There's Greg to the far left.
Now you'll notice, those guys had a problem matching up with the big man.
And this was
right there.
this was in seventh grade, right?
Seventh grade. That was probably I don't know, 74, 75, probably somewhere in that area.
How about that?
1974. Yeah, I think the biggest change is the shoes and the socks definitely have changed.
Yeah,
The length of the shorts has changed, and most definitely the talent level has changed.
yeah. But
That was your all tournament team right there.
I was going to say it's that all tournament. It wasn't just. I was going to
Yeah,
say if it's not all tournament, that school was having financial problems because
yeah, the
those
uniform.
players had different uniforms on.
You know what's
So
odd, Frank? I saw one time. I don't know if it was that picture or not, but I thought, man, look at those uniforms. Where those come from? So I was looking back, and in the old Anstead High School yearbook, and like I said, this was probably 74, 75 when that picture was taken. But looking back in the high school yearbook, and it was like 1968 or something, and that's the uniforms they were wearing. So we got the hand-me-downs, I guess, from from the high school team.
yeah, how about that?
But yeah, yep, blast from the past right there.
That's
Actually
right.
had hair on my way to becoming a 260-pound power guard or whatever you call
There you
it,
go.
guard forward. Oh my, yeah, that's quite a blast there. Anyway, enough of that foolishness. We don't need to see that anymore. But Darren will have that up on the wall somewhere, I'm sure, in the background for people to see. But um, we're lucky to have Mark Parsons back with us tonight, Frank. And I know you and I have talked several times this past week, and what a good job he did last week talking about the offensive side of the ball. I felt good after that show. I had I was ready to start the season because it made me had renewed faith in our team.
That's
So
right.
tonight, yeah, he's going to talk about our defense, and I think just from what we hear, the defense should be a little stronger point, a better part of this team. Although the prognosticators, based on some of the articles I've been reading, don't see it that way.
That's
they
right.
don't they don't think we're going to be very good. But
That's right.
anyway, let's go ahead and bring in our good buddy Mark Parsons. And Mark out in Tennessee. There he is. Mark, welcome to the show, buddy.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And I know last week we were able to cover the offense. We didn't quite make it to the defense, so we got you back to round this thing out for us and fill us with confidence.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. I've kind of put together an outline here, and I'll just kind of go through it. I'm excited about the defense. I think we are going to notice some improvement there, personnel wise. A lot of new names. Again, this is a puzzle, that's still in the works, not completed. Now we've added this portal situation to it. Hopefully we're not going to lose anybody, but we just have to wait and see how it all plays out. But first, I'm going to start with the defensive end position. I've got 6 total players in that room. The number one guy is Jamori Robinson. He's a transfer out of Texas San Antonio. He was the Conference USA Player of the Year last year, Defensive Player of the Year. They've got high hopes for him, and he's got the attention of all the NFL scouts. And I think he's going to be a bright spot for us. Behind him, you have a transfer from Missouri, Eddie Kelly, another one that's a good-sized kid. I think he's going to get some time as well. Overall good player. And then the third guy there is Adam Tomzik. He's from Cerritos Community College in California. He is just he's one of those guys that just came this summer, and so he's one that's going to kind of be working his way into things here as we go along. And then behind that, they have 3 true freshmen. So I mean, they've got pretty good numbers there for the defensive end position, and I think that's going to be one of our brighter spots. Moving on to nose guard, there's 3 total players there. A lot of carryover on this from the previous staff. Number one player is Hammond Russell. Behind him is Corey McIntyre. Both have experience playing. Hammond Russell is a starter. Corey McIntyre had a lot of playing time. I think we're going to be solid there. And then behind that, you have Nate Gabriel also. So that's going to be a pretty solid position for us. Moving on to defensive tackle, I've got 4 total in that area. The number 1 player is Edward Vesterinen. I think he's from Finland. He's been a starter the whole time he's been here. He's had never missed a game until he got injured last year, and he did miss part of the year. But he's back. I think we're going to be solid there. The guy that took over for him, Asani Redwood, is behind him this year. He did a solid job last year. Again, I think we're going to be pretty good shape there. And they brought in a new guy for the 3rd string, Elijah Simmons from Garden City Community College in Kansas. So, that's a pretty solid room. And then there's another freshman, Taylor Brown, behind Simmons. So I think they got pretty good depth there as well. Now, a lot of new faces in a lot of these other positions. The Bandit, which is also an edge rusher, kind of a hybrid, can drop back, cover the pass, or they can cover the run both. 5 total in that position room. Number 1 is Braden Siders, transfer from Wyoming. So he's a new face in there. Seems like a pretty good player based on what I've seen on some of the film on him. I think we're going to be pretty good there. And then behind him, they brought in another guy, Devin Grant from Incarnate Word out of Texas. And he's an unknown, but we'll see how it goes. Then you have Curtis Jones, is a freshman from West Virginia. He's from Cabell Midland, down near Huntington. And then Marshawn Oxley from Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. So, again, a lot of depth there. I think we're going to be pretty solid there as well, all across that line. Now, for the linebackers, this is a carryover, the starter here. But there's some changes into some of the starters in these positions as well. For Mike linebacker, you have Reed Carrico, who's a transfer from Ohio State. He's a carryover from Neil Brown's group. He's picked to be the captain of the defense. He's going to be the leader out there. He's a little undersized, but he's plays with a big heart. I think he's a pretty good player. I think we'll see some good things for him. And behind him, you have a really good player coming in from he's an All-American from Southern Illinois, Ben Bogle. I think there's going to be a solid player to rotate in there. And then on 3rd team is Ben Cutter. He was a former starter at one of the linebacker positions under Neil Brown, but he's been relegated to 3rd team now. So I still got plenty of depth there. I think if Carrico can continue to do like he's played in the past, I think we're going to be, pretty good there as well. Now at the will linebacker spot, I have 4 total in that room. Got some new players here. We got Chase Wilson from Colorado State. He transferred in. I think the thing you're going to notice here is these guys at this position are a lot bigger than what we've had in the past, a lot taller and bigger in weight. Behind him is a transfer from Mississippi State, John Lewis. He actually went to UNLV this past spring, but didn't like it and left and came to WVU. 6'4", about 230, pretty good sized guy. I think it's a solid player as well there. And behind him is Ashton Woods, transfer from North Carolina. He was a 4-star out of high school coming in, highly regarded. And then you have Michael Hasty, true freshman, behind that. So, again, quite a bit of depth there. It's just some new faces. We'll see how things work out. Now for the area in the secondary, which has been kind of a rough spot for us over the last couple of years, with the exception of Beanie Bishop. At nickelback, I've got a couple of good players here. We have Fred Perry, transfer from Jacksonville State's coming in highly regarded. So they tell me he's very animated on the field, and I don't know whether that's he's funny or he talks a lot of trash. Hopefully it's not going to result in personal fouls, but they say he's a solid hitter, a good player. Behind him is another good one, Jordan Scruggs, transfer from South Alabama, comes in highly regarded as well. So I think we're going to be fairly solid there. And then behind them is Zy Jennings. He's from Ohio. And I think they have high hopes for him in the future. So there's 3 solid players there. We'll just have to see how things go. But it's going to be, like I said, that's all new faces. So we'll see how things shake out. Then at safety, at one safety, you have 3 total in this room. A lot of shakeups here. You have listed at first team currently is Darian Lewis, who transferred in from Akron. He's highly touted. He's got the attention of the NFL as well. And he is pretty much assumed this number 1 spot, but he just came in this summer, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, he hasn't even played yet, but he's highly regarded. The starter that was listed there was a holdover from Neil Brown, but he actually transferred from Jacksonville State where he was with Rich Rodriguez. And last year he started at cornerback, but his true position was safety. They moved him to safety, and he was the number 1 guy, but now he's been moved to number 2. So we'll see how that works out. And then behind him, you have Justin Harrington, who out of spring ball was also listed as the number 1 safety at the other safety spot, but he's now been relegated to the 3rd team in this room. So we're going to see how that goes. He's a transfer from Washington, and again, all new faces there. And at safety, you have 5 total in that room, all new faces. You got Jordan Walker, transfer from UT Chattanooga. And he was here during spring ball, so he's had some experience within the system. You have Israel Boyce, true freshman, highly touted, but he's got to work his way into the system. And then behind him is William Davis, who's a Division II player, transfer from Virginia Union. I don't know a whole lot about him. And then after that, you have two true freshmen coming in here. And then at cornerback, at least in the number 1 position, I think we're going to be really good here. We've got 5 total in that room, and the number 1 spot is Michael Coates, a highly regarded NFL prospect out of Nevada. And he had narrowed his choices to West Virginia and Ole Miss, and they basically asked him, what's it going to take to keep you in Morgantown and not make that trip to Oxford? And he, I guess he gave him a figure that WVU liked, and he never even made the visit to Ole Miss. So he's here, and the ESPN guys love him. So we're going to see how they said anybody that signs him is going to get a steal. So we're going to see how that works out. I think he's going to be a good player. Behind him is Derek Carter, transfer from Jacksonville State, has experience with Rodriguez in the system. And then behind him is Ty Crutcher, a transfer from West Florida. I don't know a lot about him. And then there's 2 other freshmen coming in as well. So you got a lot of numbers there. Just don't, on the backup side of things, don't know a whole lot. But Michael Coates sure is a good one. I think we're going to have a good player in a starter there. Now, at the other corner, you have a guy that transferred in from Appalachian State. He followed his position coach to WVU. He was a starter at Appalachian State, Jason Chambers. And behind him, you have Devontae Golden Nelson. He's also a transfer from Akron. He's out of Memphis, Tennessee. Has pretty good reputation as well. And then behind that, you have 2 other sophomore players that were holdovers from Neil Brown. So we'll see how it all plays out. at that position. The thing that's good about the defensive backs that I like, a lot of the players at these positions can play other positions. So that's a problem we've had in the past where we've had players get injured, you have depth issues, and we're having to rotate players in there that didn't have experience in that position. But I think they've rotated a lot around this past spring and working this summer. And a lot of these guys have experience at multiple positions. And I think that's why they signed them, because, with the limit on players and things like that, you wanted some versatility in there. So that kind of helps as well. And I went ahead and I threw in a couple of other positions here, on the special teams. Punter, we have a solid punter in Oliver Straw from Australia. Right now, he doesn't have a backup. So let's hope he doesn't try to make any tackles on those returns and doesn't get injured or anything, and he can hold through for the season. But he's back, did a good job. Place kicking wise, they brought in a field goal kicker, Cade Hensley. He's from Johnson City, Tennessee, played at Coastal Carolina, was a great kicker there. And I think he'll be good for us as well. Behind him, you have R.J. Koken and Nate Flower. So you do have a couple guys that'll push him a little bit, but I think that position's his for the taking. And on kickoffs, you have Ethan Head, transfer from Tulane, is noted for being able to get the ball out of the end zone. That's a problem we've been inconsistent with over the years, and I think that's why he was brought in. He'll also give you some backup help on your field goals as well. So I think we're okay there. As far as long snapper, we're replacing the guy from last year, but we have a guy coming in, McGuire Moss, and behind him is Caden Seller. Should be solid there as well. That's been a bright spot for us as well. The guy from last year he's in the NFL camps now. He's trying to make a team. So I think we're going to be okay there. And that kind of rounds out those positions. You guys have anything to add, or?
I was going to say, as always, Mark, a great job. One of the challenges, I guess, when I was listening to you, I was thinking, if I had heard this, in other words, let me phrase it this way: if someone said to me 3 months ago, would you expect to hear what Mark Parsons is saying, and the outline that you just gave, with the profile of guys that are big, and what I like also is experienced, and with depth? I would have said probably not very likely. But what's shaping up, and it goes back to what Greg was saying, takeaway from last week, this is better than I expected, and I think that most people expected, to be able to move quickly, to be able to have a team that you describe. And then when you look at the numbers, that's the other thing. When you look at the number of tackles these guys have had, particularly on the line and at linebacker, and not just here, but also at schools they were at before. And when you ask the question, are there always a few plums on teams that are maybe group of five or less? And there are. And so I think the coaching staff has done a great job of mining who's out there. And you're seeing they're not only bringing guys in, obviously, from Jackson State, but also Akron. And you got so those, it's all adds up. Now, the big problem is we won't know until we see. I mean, there was that great meme from a coach who basically was asked to evaluate his team's performance. And he said, we look great on paper. The problem is we played the game on grass. And so you really don't know until you actually go out there and play the game. But Greg, I don't know how you feel, but again, I'm feeling a lot better than I did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you look at the people he's brought in, and you feel good about the position wise where they brought in really good players. You can see improve players, improving at these positions, which is key. I think one of the mistakes a lot of people make when they look at this, the first thing they'll look at is where they came from. Oh well, he came from Akron. How good could he be? But like you said, there's plums in all these teams. There's good players, and if you really look at them, and like Mark does, know a little bit about them, their past and their performances, irregardless of the school they were at, you see some talent right there. And I'm like you; I feel a lot better about it when you hear these things about them, and you look at tackles and games played, the experience, and that sort of thing. It's encouraging. And again, the positions that have been, you can tell, the defensive backs in particular that have truly been addressed, makes you feel a little bit more confident too, because you got faith in your coaching staff to know what we need and who we need, and not just going to take people to be taken, which I felt like in the past we kind of got into some of those situations where, we just took people out of the portal to take them if they were a good athlete or whatever, instead of addressing actual position needs. I think Neil Brown got better at that, as he was there longer. By the end, he was a lot better at getting those folks in. But I think with Coach Rodriguez's experience and his ability, to draw players, I think will show up with this roster.
Yeah. Mark, too, you probably do this. You guys probably do this, folks watching too. There's certain players that most of us pick out before the season starts and we follow. And Greg and I were having a conversation about this next matter earlier this week, and that is, and you mentioned it, Mark, that Reed Carrico is going to be the captain of the defense. And we also saw, we talked about an article that came out this week on Mountaineers on Sports Illustrated by Josh Wolf, who picks Carrico as one of the two top players that have to come through this year, Nico being number one. And the question is whether Carrico, that to me, that's really critical. Is he going to be able to do everything we need a middle linebacker to be able to do, lead that defense, be the heart and soul of the defense? He played well last year, 54 tackles. What do you guys think about that? To me, that's a
Right.
major issue.
Yeah, not to, and I'll let Mark go here. I want to get this in. And it's not I'm not being critical of Reed Carrico. I know last year several times on our post game show, we talked about the difficulty he had in covering receivers, people out of the backfield, that sort of thing. How he seemed just a step behind. Um, and, when I saw that, I felt like that was a little bit concerning. I think he has the heart to do it. I think he plays hard. He's a pretty good player, no question about that. But it's a little concerning that, unless that part of it improves a little bit, because I know we mentioned him numerous times last year on the post game show, and his grades and that sort of thing. So, I was not, you know, I wasn't overly excited about that, just to put it that way. Not that he's not a good player. I just feel like, if that's what we have to depend on, it's going to be tough right there in that position. But anyway, I'll get Mark's thoughts again. He's
Yeah,
more well
I
read in
think
this.
he is a little undersized. He's a little bit slow, but he has a good football IQ. He's got a good defensive coordinator with him that's going to expose his strengths, work on his strengths, and stay away from what he's weak at. And I think his leadership's going to be important. And I think the thing you're going to notice on defense, it's going to be a lot different, is the aggressiveness of the defense. And I think that's something we've been lacking for 10 years or more. We just haven't been as aggressive on defenses as what we used to be. That used to be back when Nealon was coaching, Rodriguez before, Bowden, those Dick Carlin, even those guys, those were all aggressive defenses, and we've just not had that. And I think I think we're going to see a more aggressive approach this year. They're working on the speed for the future, but I think they'll play to his strengths, and if he can get the leadership part down, I think we're going to be okay. As far as impact players, if we kind of segue into that for the team, because that's something we had talked about earlier this week. I think on offense, of course, Jaheim White's going to be huge. He has to have a good year. A lot of that's going to hedge on the offensive line if they can gel together and make the holes there for him. But the quarterback situation, that's going to be imperative. Right now a lot of people are penciling in Nico to be the man. I hope he is, because I think he's paid his dues. I think he deserves a shot. Again, he's smart too. He has pretty good football IQ. He's undefeated as a starter, but he has been inconsistent at times. So we're going to see. I do think this system is going to suit him better, possibly, than what he had been put into previously. So we're going to see how it plays out. But I tell you, a big person on offense, that's something we've been lacking, is a big downfield receiver.
Right.
And I think Cam Vaughn is the person they're going to look to fill that void. He was a big play type player at Jacksonville State. I realize that's at a different level, but the kid's fast. He can catch. He's the type of player that we haven't had. He can get separation, and he can win those jump battles, against the defensive backs, to get some of those catches that when they're covered well, that he can pull some of those passes down. And I think that's going to be a huge factor on offense. As far as the defense, again, I think Michael Coates, the cornerback from Nevada, is going to be imperative. Jamori Robinson, the defensive end from Texas San Antonio. And I think the catalyst for the defense, though, is going to be Reed Carrico. He's the one that's going to have to hold it together. He's going to be calling the formations out there. And I think he'll be a good leader. I think, like I said, he's got a good football IQ, and I think I'm hoping he can make up for some of his lack of speed. They can kind of play to his strengths, and he'll get the job done, is what I'm hoping. So,
I think in his defense, Frank, sorry to interrupt you, but in his defense, and Mark brought out a good point. You got to put him in positions where he can succeed, and it seemed like last year he was left out on an island by himself a lot of times, and you just can't put him in those positions. And I think you're hoping with this new defensive coordinator, who's known as one of the best ones, can again set things up so it plays to his strengths and not his weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses, of course, is the speed and covering people out of the backfield and that sort of thing. So you try to keep him out of those situations and let his strengths take over. So in his defense, not necessarily his fault. I mean, he is what he is, and he was just put in bad situations. It seemed like last year he was always, covering a speedy back or a speedy slot back or receiver, and just physically couldn't do it all the time. And that's on the coaches when they put him in those positions. So hopefully that'll change.
Well, I think part of the situation, and I hate to bash the previous staff, the defensive coordinator we had was elevated from a position coach. And I know you have to get started and get elevated to get that experience, to get that title of defensive coordinator. I just feel that maybe doing it in the Big 12 for the first time was not the best thing. I don't think he had the experience to really differentiate players, and play to their strengths. He just didn't seem to have it down as far as that, because we were out of position on a lot of plays on defense, and I think that's another thing you're going to see a big change in. I think that's going to be due to the coordinator and who they brought in here as assistants. They got top-notch assistants, and I think it's going to be a big difference there.
I'll tell you, one of the guys that I'm going to be watching on that defense is Ben Cutter. Uh,
He
you
was my
know,
favorite. I hate to see him at third team. Yeah.
yeah, the thing, and I think I'm not saying that he's gotten a raw deal, but last year people were focusing on Trotter and Lathan and Bradley, and they had good years. They're gone now, and
Yeah.
so the question is, can Cutter play himself into a major role? Is what I'm hoping for. And you mentioned this Ben Bogle from Southern Illinois really
Uh-huh.
put up a lot of numbers, and
Yeah.
even Cutter had good numbers last year and the year before. But I'm looking at the numbers here. Bogle had 87 tackles last year, 16.5 tackles for losses,
Yeah.
and he was a championship division All American. That's really important. And another guy that had a great spring game, not this year but last year, was Zay Jennings. Um,
Yeah.
and he played a lot as a true freshman, but never had what I would call a breakthrough. So I would say let's keep our eyes on Zay Jennings. And you mentioned Fred Perry as well,
Uh-huh.
who's another Jack's State migrator. When you think about the great WVU defenses, Mountaineer defenses, when you think of Boom Boom, think of Boom Freddie Smalls. There's always that guy who's outsized, who's pounding the chest, uh, and not in a derogatory way, but just in a very
Yeah.
enthusiastic way.
Well,
Um,
I think back to
so
Fred Smalls, and you had Eric Wicks, Jamal Adai, even a defensive backs. You had AG. What was the guy from the Caribbean? First round pick, played for Holgerson. I can't remember his name now, but they'd knock your head off. And we've
mhm,
not had that since that guy from Holgerson's team was here, really. I mean, that's what you need. And I realize the defensive, they call a lot of penalties now for targeting and for aggressiveness and things like that. But we just haven't had anything like, we haven't,
yeah,
it's like we're always playing off the ball and not willing to knock your head off. And I think Fred Perry's going to knock some heads off out there. I really
yeah,
do. I think he's going to be aggressive. They say
yeah,
same thing about Scruggs, hard hitter. So we'll just see how it
yeah.
goes.
And one of the other guys you talked about on the backside, Michael Coates. Maybe it's a little bit too hyperbolic to me to say this, but I think he has to come through.
Yeah, I
Uh,
do
what
too.
that what that backside needs is someone, a Beanie Bishop rather, who
Yeah.
uh, you know I, I watched him play when he was at Minnesota, so I'm not going to say Beanie came out of nowhere. He was a good player at Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think the Mountaineer fans realized how good he was until he got here, and he had an attitude. He's got to come through. I think the guys from Akron, Devontae Golden Nelson is another one that I think
Uh,
is going to have to come through. And on the D line, you mentioned Hammond, Russell, and Visterian really are going to have to play, um, especially if that defense does what we expect them to do, and that is to keep the offenses off kilter. Much more blitzing this year than we've seen
yeah, I think they're going to
in
do.
the
You're going to see a
recent
lot more
past.
of that. Yeah, uh, I think you're going to see a lot different formations, and I think you're going to see a lot of blitzing, and I think they're going to try to keep the team's offenses a little off kilter just by they're not knowing what to expect. I think they're going to see a lot of that, and that's if you're less talented, that's how you make up for it, and through your schemes and things and so forth. Same thing on offense, with our spread offense and everything. It gives you it just helps you to keep everybody guessing, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
One
so
last
that's
comment I'd make too is you talked about, and I'm not going to say the little things count a lot, because what I'm going to say is not little. It didn't hurt us as much last year as it did the year before when we were a bottom feeder in the country. We have to have a kickoff artist who can put the ball out of the end zone. When you go back to that Baylor game 2 years ago, when I think they had three kickoff returns for touchdowns and basically made a tight game that was going to be a WVU runaway. And we weren't as bad last year, but there's no need to make a tackle on a kickoff return if the ball is coming out
Yeah.
because it's been through the end zone. That to me is huge.
Going to be big for sure. I think that's what he set out to do, was get somebody like that. And he signed him right off the bat. So I mean, he must think a lot of what he saw there. So we're gonna see how it plays out. Still driving
Yeah, I
me
think
crazy. I can't remember the name of that defensive back, but he had a hit on a guy against Texas about knocked the guy unconscious, but I can't remember his name now.
One thing encouraging that hearing Mark talk is, the physicality. We've talked to former players a lot and that played back in the day, and we've always, bring up the fact that, we were known for being a physical team. We may not always win the game, but teams knew they'd been in a battle because they played such a physical team. And we've kind of gotten away from that over the last few years. And hopefully this new regime can get back to that. And like you said, they call a lot of penalties for targeting, that sort of thing. You don't mean dirty plays or illegal plays. You mean physical plays. And we haven't had that. But, and when we're talking about, coaches putting them in the position to succeed. If you think back the last couple of years, last year especially, I mean, how many times would you say, my gosh, why are their receivers always wide open and ours aren't? Why when it's 3rd and 6, they have a man wide open 7 yards down the field? And I just think it's schemes. And I think, I can remember saying many times, our schemes, our system, something's not right. Because these players can't be that bad,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we didn't have a lack of talent back there. I don't think we were overly talented, but the schemes and the positions they were put in a lot of times were just terrible, and nobody can guard somebody out there for 4 or 5 seconds. You got to get pressure on the quarterback. You got to change it up, make it difficult for the quarterback to read. It's not just about could your man stop their man. I mean, that's part of it, but you got to have other things in place too to help each other out. I mean, that nothing helps the defensive back more than pressure on the quarterback, to make him throw early or throw somewhere he don't want to. So hopefully we will see a big change there. I think we will.
Carl Joseph, that's who it was.
No,
that was the defensive back. Yeah.
Good.
I agree. I think a lot of it's schematics. I think a lot of it's coaching. And again, you have to run a defense to your players' strengths. You can't just run a system. You have to know the talents you have and what they're good at, and that's what you play. And I think we've lacked that. We haven't had a true shutdown corner since Rasul Douglas, and they're saying Coates is comparable to him, comparable to Pac-Man, that type of player. So, I mean, if he lives up to the hype, I think we're going to be okay. It's something we've lacked for sure. And I think with Fred Terry and Scruggs and those guys, if they'll knock some heads off, I think we're going to. Plus, from what I hear, those linebackers they brought in from Colorado State and the guy from Wyoming are pretty good hitters as well. So I think it's going to be big.
Well, I know Frank feels like I do. Can't wait.
Oh yeah, man. No, this is good.
I'm excited. I could watch football 365 days a year. So I like basketball, I like baseball and the other sports, but football's my favorite.
Yep. I always said I was best at playing baseball, and I like playing baseball better than anything. I like coaching basketball. I coach basketball and football and baseball. I like coaching basketball better than anything, but I like watching football more than him.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
One of the things you said, Greg, earlier is really important, and that is being able to, the talent's there, and being able to play together. And I think, I've been looking at the Big 12, and, when you think about it, let's assume the talent is roughly equivalent, which is a heck of an assertion across the the teams. But it really comes down to, given that, let's just assume that coaching, quality of coaching, and then can the players who are on the field play well together? And I think, I guess the sort of the hypothesis I have is that West Virginia could surprise this year, because I'm thinking this Big 12 may not be, even though it's relatively equal up and down the 16 teams. Is there really a standout team? And I can't find any evidence, at least on paper, for that. And so it really comes down to the coaching, which we know we have, and then how quickly these players can actually play together. So I think there are more reasons than not to be beyond hopeful and really positive for the season coming up. And as you said last week, Mark, those first few games are really important, particularly that Pitt game. Can't stumble at Ohio, and if you can beat Pitt and you go 3-0 going into the conference, that's telling you something. And I think that would be my expectation. It's certainly a hope, but I think things may turn out to be better than even the most optimistic fan would have thought.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping we can kind of get a roll going. I mean, this Pitt game kind of plays like the old Maryland series, and everybody used to say, "Well, if we beat Maryland, we're going to have a good year." I think 2 years ago we beat Pitt, and we went to a bowl game, had a big bowl win. I think last year we lost, and it kind of went from there. I think this year's Pitt game, if we can win that game, I think we can get a little momentum and some confidence, and I think. Who knows? Who knows what will play out? We just have to see.
Mm.
Yeah, too, Frank. You were talking about competition-wise and that sort of thing in the Big 12. I think a positive for us as well is, these other teams don't know any more about us than we know about us, and
exactly.
I think like you said, if we can knock off some of those early wins and get things going in a positive direction, it could turn out to be a really, really good year. I mean, you just we've got good experience and good players at key positions. We know, so you feel like we're going to be competitive, and if some of these guys, live up to their expectations, it could be a lot better than what we had hoped for. So that's the way I'm looking at it, and again, it just makes you more excited for the season to get going.
That's right, absolutely. Well, Mark, you did another bang-up job. Gave us
Absolutely.
a lot of things to think about, a lot of people to watch, positions to look at, and as you do a retrospective of last year, no matter how well or whatever the offense did, it was that defense that would make you bite your nails right down to the core. And so that's something we really got to watch. And I think also having two lefties at quarterbacks, your quarterbacks both being left-handers, has to help in terms of the running the routes. And absolutely what you said, we need, and I would throw Jaden Bray in there too. We need some downfield receivers, people who can stretch the defense, get some separation, and make some big plays. And so there's a lot. If you think about a checklist, one of the things I'm doing mentally is taking what you said last week and this week and making a checklist of things to watch.
Well, I think if you're one of the coaches I used to work for, Howard Schnellenberger, you always hear say, "Well, we're going to get the run game going to open up the passing attack." He was just the opposite. He used the passing game to open up the running attack, and I think that's kind of what Rodriguez does too. If we can get that downfield passing going, you can't stack the box, and I think that's going to open up our running attack. And I think that's how it's going to play out. So.
Yep, that's a good job, Mark. And like I said,
thank you.
Yep, always informative and good to hear. And like I said, you got us jacked up, ready for the season. So we
Yeah.
appreciate that part of it as well. Frank, I know we got a couple of things going on
Oh,
next couple of weeks we want to talk about real quick before we sign off.
yep.
So I'll let you take the ball on that and run with it and get everybody filled in.
Well, we're going to be, folks, we're going to be on twice next week, and Darren's going to throw those up there. And so we're going to do another remote. And so we'll be on next Wednesday. We're going to focus on basketball. Still, do the banter at the beginning on football. If anything new pops up, like that special portal popped out of nowhere that we talked about. But next week, we're very pleased to have Tim Carney with us, just a great player. Anybody who follows West Virginia basketball remembers that and UNLV game. Mark, I think you were there for that, right?
I was there. Yeah, that was
That's
probably
right.
the wildest atmosphere I've ever been in a basketball game. There, it was
Yeah.
student section
Yep.
was packed by 7 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask Greg if he was there, but he was in seventh grade at that time. And we saw the picture earlier. So he missed that. Was
Actually,
that after his bedtime?
I was there.
Yeah.
I think in fact, that was when I was in college and I was at Glenville, so it was only an hour away. So yeah, we made that trip up we
Yeah.
make trips up occasionally and slide into the student section. But yeah, and I
Yeah.
think I mentioned last week talking to Jerry Tarkanian about it. He said it was the greatest atmosphere he ever participated in
Yeah.
up there. I thought
Boy,
it's
I'll tell
crazy
you,
in there.
incredible. And we thank our good friend Brian Jozuak. If you could put the other graphic up, um, Darren, there it is. As you know, there's a big fundraiser for the WVU Children's Hospital every year. This is the 35th annual, is it? I got to look a little bit. My eyes are not as good as they used to be. And of course, our good friend Dale Wolfley was involved with this for a number of years, and so Joe's has taken over, done a great job, and he has invited us to do a live remote at Cheat Lake at the Lake View Golf Resort. People know where that is on Cheat Lake, and we're going to be there on Friday. We should be hitting, we can't give a specific time, but probably hit the air about 10 or so. We'll be on for a couple of hours, and like always, Greg and Mark, if you can't watch it live, you can always watch it in the archive, both on the New River Network, Facebook, Roku, Optimum Cable, and NRN YouTube, as well as the Voice of College Football West Virginia on YouTube. It'll be available on Friday live and then in the archive, just like the Wednesday show, live and in the archive. And we're looking forward to seeing a lot of Mountaineer. We know a lot of Mountaineer alumni will be there, but mostly football alumni, but some basketball alums too. And Greg, I know you're looking forward to it big time.
Oh yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We'll get to see a lot of people and talk to a lot of folks. And I've already put the word out. Owen Smith shows up. Me and him are going to go around back. I'll take him back to the woodshed and work him over for standing us up. But no,
That's yeah.
I
What are you
might
going
need
to
some
do?
help.
I
Get
think
three
you
or
do
four
need
people to
some
help
help.
me. Yeah, I might need 10 or 12 others to help me. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that. Looking forward to it. And I know we'll get to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces and from the former Mountaineers. So I know people want to tune into that just to see those guys and hear from them. That should be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it. So yeah, tune in at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. to 12. And like I said, if you can't watch us, you can always get it on the archives. It'll be there for you to go back and view. So we look forward to bringing you that. And Frank, I know we always do a little Voice College football promo at the end. We'll say good night and we'll let you run that through. We appreciate everybody for tuning in here on the New River Network and Voice College Football, the Mountaineer Locker Room. Then and now appreciate Mark Parsons for all his help and all his work that he does and puts into this and all his posts that he puts out as well. He's easing his way back into the good graces of Facebook. He needs to quit misbehaving so they'll quit shutting him down. So he's back in action there as well. Anyway, we thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We look forward to coming to you again next Wednesday and Friday. For Frank, I'm Greg, and Mark. Good night, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Frank Fear here from Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now, and we're pleased to be part of the Voice of College Football National Network. Mark Rogers and staff have done a great job with the network, and it's constantly adapting and expanding to bring content to you. Many of you are already following us on X and Facebook and Instagram, and if you're not, here are the URLs, the links to go to and take advantage of all the great content that's there for you. Even if you do that, you may not know some of the new doings at the Voice of College Football Network. One is a new podcast options that already thousands of people are taking advantage of. You can get it on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast networks, and we encourage you to do that. Perhaps the biggest drum roll is the new Voice of College Football website with plenty of content, everything that you want to enjoy and can enjoy about college football. And remember, one thing that makes the Voice of College Football Network different is that we're 24/7, 12 months a year. It never ends. It's college football in the winter, the spring, the summer, and of course during the fall. We also want to announce, and Mark Rogers again and staff have done a great job with this, a relationship with Amazon.com. And here's Mark to tell you more about it.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
Well, that's it for now. Let me thank you for your loyalty. Voice of College Football Network. This is Frank Fear for Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. Hope to see you on our channel and other channels, VOCF. Take care, everybody.